Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're deconstructing a really fascinating, anonymous, expert analytical report that maps out the exact mathematical mechanics of wealth accumulation. Now, we aren't just looking at your run-of-the-mill generic financial advice today. Instead, we're strictly analyzing the underlying physics of money. Specifically, we're breaking down that grueling, mathematically stubborn journey to reaching your first $100,000 in net worth, and exactly why crossing that specific threshold fundamentally alters the entire trajectory of your financial life. You see, failing to understand this trajectory is precisely why most people stay trapped in this perpetual cycle of trading their very limited time for money, essentially indefinitely. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the core anomaly that this report investigates. Why is it that the journey from $0 to $100,000 can take nearly a decade of relentless effort, yet the journey from $100,000 to $200,000 takes half that time, and then the jump from $200,000 to $300,000 is even faster? I mean, it really feels like the rules of the game change entirely right midway through. And, well, as this analysis reveals, they absolutely do. The underlying physics of the wealth equation literally invert. To understand exactly why this happens, we have to strip away all the generic platitudes and look at two very distinct phases of growth. In the very beginning, your wealth is entirely reliant on what's called labor-driven growth. This just means your active savings, the actual physical dollars you earn from trading your time and labor, are the only things moving the needle. And the implicit assumption here is the inherent limitation of labor-driven growth. It's strictly capped by human biology. You have to sleep, right? There are only 24 hours in a day, so it's an agonizingly slow linear process. But eventually, a massive transition occurs to capital-driven growth. Capital doesn't have biological constraints. It doesn't get tired, it doesn't clock out, and the mathematical force of compound returns creates this exponential acceleration that operates completely independent of your daily labor. Here is our structured roadmap for this explainer. First, the linear accumulation phase. Second, the 100K tipping point. Third, the velocity of wealth. And finally, catalysts for acceleration. Section 1, the linear accumulation phase, the illusion of linear growth. The report notes that getting to your first $100,000 feels like this brutal uphill battle, simply because during this initial phase, you are doing absolutely all the heavy lifting. Your capital is just too small to help you out yet. So let's establish the exact mathematical parameters the experts use to model this phenomenon. We're going to assume an annual active contribution of $7,500 placed into broad market investments, yielding a consistent 10% average annual return. Now, functioning as an analytical engine here, we really have to address the underlying assumptions. A 10% average return implicitly assumes a long-term market participation, and it completely ignores short-term volatility. This really highlights exactly why strict, ironclad discipline is the required variable during these initial years. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer dominance of your active contributions compared to the market return. Look at year one. Your hard work puts in $7,500, but the market only hands you $750. You are literally doing 90% of the work. Even by year 3, your money has only generated a little over $1,600. Just think about the psychological weight of this for a second. By year 3, an individual has sacrificed $22,500 of potential lifestyle consumption, but the market has rewarded them with what looks like a totally paltry fractional gain. This is the exact mathematical valley of disappointment, where most people just abandon their financial goals. They falsely believe the system doesn't work, completely missing that their labor is merely dragging the portfolio upward, inch by inch, just to build the necessary mass. The real reason this slow start is mathematically required is to feed the engine of compounding. The report defines this very objectively. It's a structural mathematical process where accumulated capital earns returns, and then those returns lock in to independently generate their own exponential yields. The underlying physics dictate that until critical mass is reached, Compounding is absolutely happening, for sure, but the absolute dollar amounts are just microscopic. They are simply too small to overcome your daily costs of living, rendering the growth virtually invisible to you. Section 2. The 100,000K tipping point, shifting the leverage. This brings us to the precise threshold where the mathematical system fundamentally shifts in your favor, and the leverage transfers entirely from your physical labor over to your stored capital. At this six-figure mark, a profound cause and effect relationship emerges. First, the principal mass reaches a critical volume. Second, and this is absolutely crucial, the annual investment yields begin to rival and eventually completely exceed your annual labor contributions. Think about it. If you have $100,000 invested at a 10% return, the market is generating $10,000 a year for you. That is actually more than the $7,500 you are actively saving. This crossover point is the exact moment wealth generation becomes passive rather than active. Your capital magically transforms into a massive fleet of active employees working 24/7, generating wealth for you while you sleep. Section 3. The velocity of wealth. The exponential decay of time. Let's move to and see how this builds now that the leverage has shifted. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate payoff of crossing that tipping point. Under the expert parameters we established earlier, reaching the first $100,000 takes approximately 9 grueling years. But look at what happens next. The second $100,000 takes only about 4.5 years. The third takes just 3 years. The intervals of time required to duplicate your wealth shrink exponentially. If we project this further out, the 10th $100,000 takes mere months to accumulate. You are not working any harder, and you aren't saving a larger percentage of your income. This exponential decay of time is the absolute mathematical definition of escape velocity in personal finance. The math simply accelerates all on its own. To further prove this, the report points to the classic penny doubling data. If you take a single penny and double it every day for 30 days, well, the first 2/3 of the timeline are completely underwhelming. By day 10, you only have $5. By day 20, you have just over 5,000. You can kind of think of those first 20 days as your 20s and 30s, a period of grinding that feels unrewarding, yet it serves as the non-negotiable prerequisite for what comes next. Because the principal mass is finally large enough, the final 10 days, representing your 40s and 50s, are explosive. By day 28, you cross $1 million, and by day 30, you hit $5.3 million. The early delay is just a required mathematical illusion, masking an unstoppable explosion. The actionable insight here is incredibly profound. The first $100,000 is a linear labor equation. You essentially have to force it into existence through sheer discipline and active savings. But all subsequent multiples, they're a function of mathematical velocity. It's an exponential physics equation that pulls you upward automatically. Section 4, Catalyst for Acceleration, Actionable Levers. Knowing that the math is heavily backloaded, how do we pull the timeline forward and reach that initial critical mass as rapidly as possible? Well, the report identifies a strict 3-step logical sequence. Step 1 is to optimize your spending floor, cutting out the waste and lifestyle inflation that just drains your active capital. Step 2 is expanding the income ceiling. And step 3 is deploying that capital early and efficiently to multiply time. It's actually crucial to understand why this is a strict sequence. If you expand your income ceiling in step 2 without first optimizing the spending floor in step 1, the mathematical result is immediate lifestyle creep, which literally completely nullifies the acceleration. There's also a really stark contrast between cutting costs and raising income. Living below your means is essential, but it represents a finite floor. You can really only cut your expenses down to 0. Extreme frugality eventually hits diminishing returns. There's a hard mathematical limit to how much capital you can free up by skipping a coffee. Conversely, expanding your earning power represents an infinite ceiling. Whether that's through acquiring high-leverage skills, launching side businesses, or advancing in your career, acquiring new skills alters the math infinitely. Growing the ceiling provides infinitely more fuel for your compounding engine than lowering the floor ever could. Once you generate that surplus capital, the report highlights some non-obvious requirements for reducing friction in your compounding engine. You must automate your aggressive savings protocols. You need to capture institutional matching funds. Most importantly, you absolutely must utilize tax-advantaged holding accounts. Let's look at the implicit assumption here. Tax drag is the silent killer of early compounding. Paying a 20% capital gains tax annually on a small portfolio drastically extends that initial 9-year timeline. Therefore, tax-advantaged accounts aren't just, good ideas. They are absolute mathematical necessities to shield your early gains from being eroded. And above all, you must maintain consistent early asset deployment. Every single dollar sitting idle is a dollar missing its compounding cycle.
So the crucial point is summarized beautifully in this analytical conclusion. Compounding doesn't just multiply capital, it multiplies time. Every single year you delay reaching that first $100,000, you aren't just losing a few years of 10% returns, you are pushing the explosive back end of the compounding curve much further into your old age. By aggressively pursuing that initial critical mass, you are literally buying back decades of your future freedom. Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought to consider as we conclude today's explainer. I want you to look deeply at your current financial strategy. Are you still stuck in the linear phase, actively trading your daily labor just to accumulate capital? Or have you reached the tipping point where your capital is now actively trading itself to buy back your time? Remember, the math is completely impartial. It's entirely up to you to leverage it. Thank you so much for joining me for this analysis, and I'll see you in the next explainer.